Yes, the first association, my family, the West Coast Railway, that is the Mount Lyell Company Railway, between Queenstown and Strahan, was in the Depression years in the mid-30s, mid to late 30s. At that particular time, the family had grown to 6 members, and the last member of the family that was born there was Eddie. And that story in itself was interesting because at the time that Mum announced that Eddie was due to arrive, there's only one way to get out of Tubucana, and so my Uncle Ern was commissioned to get one of the work trolleys, and Mum sat on the suitcase and he pumped the trolley with a long arm, pumped the trolley all the way to Strahan to the midwife, so some 10 kilometres, so, and that's how Eddie was delivered. Dad was a ganger on the railways, in charge of the works gang, and it was his love of horses that led to his demise as the ganger of the railway at Tubucana, because unaware to Dad a special train was coming through with an inspector on it, but Dad took a toilet break, inverted commas, to go and listen to the house where we lived was nearby, to listen to the race. But unfortunately the train came along with the inspector on it. He noticed that Dad wasn't there, and as a consequence that led to Dad being sacked. But anyway, a position came up at Rhinadina in 1949, and Dad made his application. Obviously intervening years they'd forgotten about his previous sack. Now, Rhinadina was a very small settlement. It had the Ganger's house, which is where we lived, which is quite a substantial house, and they had 2 conjoined cottages or houses where the Fettlers lived, and there was also another shack, I remember, where Oscar Triffett used to live, which was on the top side of where the railway went through. But the main reason for Rhinadina existing was, of course, it was where the trains stopped to take on water to feed because they were steam trains.
It's the highest point.
Yes. Yeah, at the highest point. When I went there I was age 4. Because we were 7 miles from Queenstown and 14 miles from Strahan, but because the outgoing trains, of course, were delivering copper ingots to Strahan in the morning, so there were only morning trains came through, so there was no trains going to Queenstown. The better educational opportunities were at Queenstown, but of course, and in those days even there was a bus used to go to Queenstown, but there was a goats track up to the Strahan Road, so that wasn't seen as a possibility. So we would get one of the first trains that come through in the morning, say at 7:30. Because of the app railway system, which has got a central cog where the engine logs onto those cogs and goes up very slowly and helps to pull heavy loads, it's extremely slow. It's also extremely slow going downhill. And so the journey to Strahan would inevitably take 2 and a bit hours. So we'd get there at 9:30, 10 o'clock at Regatta Point. Then we'd have a taxi that'd take us around to the school. One of the consequences of that was that we missed a lot of the basic subjects in the morning, so it wasn't a good long term. But for us, my memories about the school itself were pretty vague, but the most exciting part of the day for us was after school. We'd be delivered back to Regatta Point, and at Regatta Point there were, at this particular time, several little houses, so we had lots of the Ludbys and various people to play with. And one of the things about it, particularly the younger ones, we were often hoping that the train would be delayed to be fairly late, because it went past 6 o'clock. We were then taken over to the hotel, which, for a young person that was rather, and we were fed sandwiches and soup and sandwiches. Now my older brother Eddie didn't think it was much, but I thought it was pretty okay. So that would happen on the Mount Lyell Company would do that, and we'd always get home. It would always be dark when we get home, which meant no homework or anything like that. Invariably get home and have to go to bed. I don't think we could remember much about the school, but the train trip was the highlight of the day for us, and it was I can't even remember being tired or anything like that, but they were long days. So my education was retarded, although actually I could read before I went to school, because I started school at 7.
So Ralph, do you consider yourself a West Coaster?
Well, I suppose if you've lived on the West Coast, you always do. That's part of you. It's part of your life. Yes. I always remember the comment in the book that you people wrote recently of Paul, who said, Paul Soden, who said the West Coast is in you. There's a closeness of contact and so on, a heightened sense of all the relationships and stuff that you don't have to experience if you live in a big town, if you live in your cities and so on.